The Young Turks brought to you by Carbonite Online Backup.
Here's a story from foxnews.com, relevant today, that caught my attention. It's a story that's one of the leading news stories today. Obama eyes speculators for rising gas prices as other factors play a role. Already the headline indicating what their slant is going to be. Obama eyes speculators for rising gas prices. So the idea behind the story, which was the top featured story in this group of stories on Google News, meaning the story that Obama is asking Eric Holder to investigate whether the oil companies have manipulated through fraud the rising gas prices. Reasonable story to cover, and there may well be the case that it's just a political move. But nonetheless, that's the Fox News headline. So here we go. Gas prices surging to $4 a gallon. The story is Obama's solution to break the back of rising costs is to have Attorney General Eric Holder form a task force to examine alleged fraud or manipulation of the oil markets. That's the story. Quote, we're going to make sure no one is being taken advantage of, the American people aren't being taken advantage of for their own short-term game. That's what Obama said, to wild applause, as you might imagine, at a speech that he gave in Reno. Okay. So, but then Fox says that commodity analysts are skeptical. They run three quotes in the story. Here's the first one. It's from a guy named Craig Perrong. He's a finance professor at the University of Houston, specializing in commodity prices. That's how they bill him. A finance professor, he seems impartial. University of Houston, right in the middle of the largest sort of oil production city in America. Quote, this is a transparently political fishing expedition that insinuates that fraud or manipulation is distorting oil prices without providing even the flimsiest factual basis for such a suspicion. Now, I read that and I thought, well, this guy's a professor, and maybe there'll be a quote from another professor or another expert indicating another point of view. Of course, that doesn't come. So, and I thought, wow, this guy is being really strong without even the flimsiest factual basis, because there might be some basis. I mean, why in any way should we trust the oil companies ever? We've given no indication that we should. In fact, we've been given every indication that we shouldn't. So Craig Perrong comes on strong, flimsiest factual basis. I mean, the guy's just made a speech. Other people would theoretically provide the flimsiest factual basis, and here's the deal. It's a task force to investigate it. Not for the president to say it's happening, but there's going to be an investigation. And by the way, I would argue that it is a nice little political move. But again, it's an investigation. That's just quote one. And there is no quote from anyone who says it's worth investigating, or that the oil companies may have jacked up the prices falsely through fraud or manipulation. So you move on through the story. It talks about the fact that Obama would like the $4 billion in oil subsidies for an industry that has made $1 trillion over the last 10 years. The $4 billion in tax subsidies, while we're looking to sort of cut the deficit gigantically, while we're refusing to raise taxes in any way, and we're letting the Bush tax cuts on the richest Americans, God forbid we let those expire. $4 billion, maybe more than $4 billion in subsidies for an industry that's made $1 trillion over the last 10 years. $31 million made last year. $31 billion, $1 trillion they've made over 10 years, $31 billion just last year for ExxonMobil. Okay, here's quote number two in the story, and this comes, well, obviously they got a quote from Eric Holder. Then we got a quote from Stephen Moore. He's a senior economic writer for the Wall Street Journal, the editorial board, and what do you know, he's a founder of the Club for Growth. Huh, interesting. He said, aside from the Middle East, part of the problem is the Federal Reserve policy. Huh, interesting. We're seeing inflationary effects through these gasoline prices, but we're also seeing it in gold prices, copper prices, and food prices. So I think Federal Reserve Board Chairman Ben Bernanke is as much responsible for these high gasoline prices as anyone. Okay, so we're 2 for 2. We got this clown professor, Craig Perrong, at the University of Houston, and then we got a guy from the Club for Growth. This is the FoxNews.com story. Impartial. It's the news department. That's 1 and 2. Okay, so that's the only 2 quotes other than the president and Eric Holder. From an expert, these 2 guys. Okay, then they go back to Craig Perrong a little bit. And then finally, who's the third quote from in the story? This is the quote talking about a Marist poll. The numbers are fascinating. There were 280 network news stories dealing with the issue of recent rising gas prices. And who's that from? It's Brent Bozell. Huh, interesting. The president of the Media Research Center, a giant right-wing organization that doesn't tend to report, only reports that there's a giant left-wing slant in news, which is ridiculous. Of the only 3 out of 280 mentioned the Obama administration's responsibility, by the way, indicating responsibility in the rising gas prices. He says that Craig Perrong, by the way, going back to Craig Perrong from the University of Houston, suggesting that it's part of the broad effort by the administration to deflect criticism with regard to gasoline prices because Craig Perrong blames the administration. But he's an impartial professor at the University of Houston. This is what you can do with anybody and any story on FoxNews.com. No distinction in any way from Bill O'Reilly, Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity. Bullseye, FoxNews.com.
That was pretty good.
That was pretty good, wasn't it? That was nice.
Eventually, you're going to have a computer disaster, your computer is going to crash, and you're going to lose all your files. But with Carbonite Online Backup, you don't have to worry about any of that because it automatically saves your files off-site. You can access all of your backed up files from any computer remotely, or if you want, you can also access your files through an iPhone or BlackBerry with Carbonite's awesome free app. Carbonite costs just $55 a year for unlimited backup for your PC or Mac. Think about it, that's less than $5 a month. Get a free trial at Carbonite.com by using the promo code TYT, and you also get 2 months free if you decide to buy.